Hello everybody, hope you're having a fantastic day today. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Today I'm going to be going over junk management, and we're going to call this video Junk Management 101. I tried to cover everything I could in this video that is maybe making your stash box or even your person overweight, so I hope this video helps you, and let's get into it. Okay, let's get into this. Stash Box 101. Okay, so if I can say one thing before we get started is that, like, number one rule, if you don't use it, then you may not need it. So just keep that in mind when you're putting guns into your, like, stash box. Let's just see what we start at. We're at 923. Let's see what we can get this stash box down to. And I've already, been taking care of my stash box, but we're going to go through everything here that may be weighing your stash box down. Again, like, if you're not using the stuff, like, make sure you're scripting it, like getting rid of it. Like an executioner's pipe revolver, like, you might not want that. Grenades, like 1-star weapons, like, you wouldn't think, but a chainsaw, like, weighs 12 pounds, and all of this stuff really adds up, trust me. So again, like, weapons especially, if you're not using it, get it out of your stash box. Unless you're hanging on to it for script and, you're going to be getting rid of it soon. Yeah, I think that I pretty much got everything out of here that I don't want. Another thing that you can do is put a dash in front of the weapons that you will be keeping, and that'll automatically bring it to the top unless it's in your store like this Vampire's Handmade is. And you can put whatever you want at the front, but I do suggest a dash because then it's always at the top, right? Because it goes by alphabetical order. You can put some other symbols, but I just usually put a dash. Like, see this Vampires? It's right at the bottom. If I inspect it, and then I go to rename, and let's just call it Vampires, and we'll go dash. Put a dash right at the beginning of it. Now you can see it's not at the bottom anymore. It goes here. So it's now grouped in with the ones that you would want to keep. Very good bit of knowledge that I learned in Fallout 4, and trust me, it's extremely helpful. You can do it with anything. You can do it with armor and apparel, and that's what I do it with. Just so I know what I'm keeping. Armor pretty much follows the same rules as, like, weapons. If you're not using them, then get rid of them. If you think it's a good weapon and you don't want to get rid of it, maybe, find a way to trade it on Reddit or give it to one of your friends, or maybe even, someone coming out of Vault 76, someone that will use it. Because to be honest, you're going to want that weight, and the weight's going to be more useful than, something that you're not using. So none of this stuff I'm using. I like to collect unyielding armor. And of course, I can collect a little bit more stuff than most because I have Fallout first, so there's not a bunch of junk taking up the space. But as you can see, I still do have junk in the stash box. Like, there's more than enough room to play with. Like, even if I take out all these extra guns, like, I have tons of extra carry weight. My point is this game is extremely manageable without Fallout first, and I'm hoping this video will help you. And again, like I said, like, armor is very similar to weapons. If you're not using it, get rid of it. Now, apparel. Apparel is not too bad. Like, a lot of people, myself included, like to collect some rare apparel, and, we don't want to get rid of it. So I've just named everything that I want to keep. I still have some other stuff that I want to go through as well, but as you can see, they only weigh 1/10 of a pound. So you can really keep a lot of apparel in your stash box, and it's really not going to weigh it down. I wish it told me the overall amount of my apparel, because I bet you it's not more than like 20-30 pounds, to be honest. It's probably something like that. All this stuff pretty much just weighs, 1/10 of a pound or less. So apparel shouldn't be weighing you down. If you want it to go through your apparel and get rid of it, you're going to have to get rid of most likely 10 pieces to even save a pound. So if you are overweight with the stash box, apparel is probably not the culprit. Now, food is another thing. it can throw you off. Like if you're collecting like canned dog food, like that starts to weigh a bit. Like if you're collecting Nuka-Colas, those will start to weigh a bit. Like you can see it's 8 pounds for 8, 22 pounds for 22. They're pretty much a pound each, so this stuff will weigh up. Just keep that in mind. And if you are storing food in your stash box and not using, even if you are using a fridge or a cooler or whatever you want to call it, it still goes bad. So just keep in mind that you don't have any spoiled food in your stash box. That can really weigh you down too. Like you could have spoiled meat and spoiled vegetables down here at the bottom and it'll be taking 50 pounds. So just make sure you keep an eye out for that and just collect what you are using. And again, keep in mind, like I have a lot of stuff in my stash box that I do use, so this shouldn't be a problem for you. Like I use a lot of this stuff for XP buffs and just stuff that I've accumulated over the years of playing the scoreboard. Food and drink is, you know, fairly easy to manage. And there's also mods for it as well with the backpack, which I'm not going to get into because I just kind of want to talk about the stash box more than anything. Again, yeah, just keep in mind, like canned goods will not go bad, so they're one of the better things to keep in your stash box too, but just keep in mind they do weigh a little bit. So food shouldn't really be weighing your stash box down too much unless you have some spoiled goods in there or too much Nuka-Colas. Just keep in mind what you're collecting and what you're using, and again, if you're not using it, get rid of it. All this stuff, believe it or not, I'm using it. And I'll even go through it. Like I use this stuff because I collect it for a display, so you know, 3 pounds or 3 pounds to display isn't too much. Sugar bombs I use to make brain bombs. I use this to make tasty or cranberry relish. Salt I use to make. I actually don't even need that because this character is a herbivore, but I usually have salt to make tasty squirrel stew. This perfectly preserved pie was the first one I actually got out of a machine, and it was at the rusty pick, so I wanted to hang on to that. It's kind of got like sentimental value. Pepper, I think I need it for something, but I don't really need it anymore. Perfect bubblegum I keep, like I said, from the scoreboard. Pretty much all this stuff is from the scoreboard except the canned coffee, and I always keep 10 canned dog food in my stash box as well, because there is a weekly or daily challenge that pops up sometimes that wants you to eat or find 10 canned dog food. So that just, you know, if I need to do that, then they're there for me. Because I swear to God, when you need to find canned dog food, it can be a pain in the butt. But if you don't need to, it seems to be everywhere. So yeah, I think we covered food there pretty good. Now, aid. This one can definitely weigh you down. Again, if you're not using them, you might want to get rid of them. Like a dick doll doesn't weigh enough, but I don't keep more than like 8 in my stash box in case I get addicted to something. Antibiotics and disease cures don't weigh too much. Another good thing to keep in your stash box, of course, you shouldn't have to worry about having too many of those. Berry mentats you might have a lot of, but they probably won't be weighing you down. Even leader bobbleheads, like look, 250 of them weigh 3 pounds. Like that's something you're not going to have to worry about. Magazines you're not going to have to worry about. 267 of these weigh 3 pounds. Lunch boxes, you're going to need a lot for them to weigh you down. Serums can weigh you down a little bit, but even 58 of them here is only 15 pounds. Mentats, yeah, another thing if you're collecting them to make berry mentats. Like this stuff you would probably already know, to be honest. And never keep more than 50 stim packs in your stash box. I don't. They do start to weigh a lot. Yeah, those are 20. And this is 27, yeah. So, but I think that is lower actually too. Here, let me show you. Let's take off this perk card because this might be confusing people. I just want to show, this is a great perk card to have. Like you can keep 30 to, you know, 70 stim packs on you and it won't really weigh you down. And that's another reason why I don't really keep more than 50 in my stash box, because they do weigh a little bit, as you're going to see. I think it weighs more than 30 pounds. We're seeing the traveling pharmacy amount. So if I take that off, it said the stim packs weighed 30. You can see in the stash box, they actually weigh more than that. Oh no, 30. Maybe I'm wrong. What is this one saying? 28. That's weird. Okay, 0.7, oh, 38 now. Okay, so yeah, it did go up 8 pounds, as you can see. And that definitely starts to stack. So if you have 100 in there, that's an extra 16 pounds, you know what I mean? And I would suggest keeping some stim packs in your stash box because you never know when you're going to need them. Same thing with Radaway. But if there's anything under aid that's going to be weighing you down, it's probably stim packs. I can't think of anything else that would really be weighing you down in aid. You really don't need more than 50 on you as long as you have 50 on you, or 30 to 50 on you, and then 50 in your stash box. You should be fine. And then, say you do need some stim packs, like you're running low, you're down to 2 or 3. Come to your stash box, take 40 of them out, and I'm sure you'll be able to put another 40 back in your stash box fairly quickly. And then you just don't have to worry about finding them when you actually need them. And I think that pretty much covers aid. I feel like I might be missing something here. Radaway can weigh a bit too, but it's not as much as stim packs. Yeah, again, if you're not using it, just get rid of it. Now, Miscellaneous can be a tricky one. Now, I don't have any of these tokens. I forget what they're called. I'll look it up and I'll post it eventually. But there's these tokens you can get from an event. I forget what it's called here. Oh, it spawns down here. I forget what it is. Load bearing. No, it's not load bearing. Is it load bearing? It's a mutated event now. But anyway, it'll give you tokens. And just keep in mind, they do start to weigh a bit, but that's probably more of an on-person thing. Just keep in mind what you have on your character. If your character is a bit overweight, Miscellaneous is probably the culprit, to be honest. You have to keep an eye out for ore, nuclear key cards, even scrap kits, and these tokens will weigh you down. If you're running nukes, or running silos, I should say, and you accidentally hang on to a couple of the damaged mainframe cores, they weigh 1.5 pounds each. So just stuff like this. So if your character is overweight, I highly recommend, as you can see at the bottom there, it'll tell you the weight of stuff. Most stuff in your Miscellaneous doesn't weigh much, but you might just want to go through it to make sure that you're not carrying too much of one thing. Nuclear keycards are definitely another culprit too. If you've done a lot of scoreboards like I have, nuclear keycards will start to add up. Let's get down to it here. Even improved repair kits, 8 pounds. I do have 80 of them, so they don't weigh too much, but they will start to weigh you down if you collect a lot of them like I do. Legendary cores you don't have to worry about. Modules can start to weigh a bit, so keep that in mind. I wish they didn't weigh anything, to be honest. So each nuclear key card, as you can see, weighs 4 pounds. So just keep that in mind when, if your character is overweight, it may be a bunch of nuclear key cards. And again, just go through here and make sure that nothing is taking up too much weight. Or can definitely be a big culprit as well. And it's not like it weighs, a little bit weighs a lot, but you'll start collecting this, randomly, especially earlier on as a beginner, and it'll go into your Miscellaneous, and you'll just forget about it because it's not under other menus that you're more familiar with. So just keep that in mind. If your character is overweight, it probably is possibly to do with the Miscellaneous stuff. There's a lot of hidden stuff in here that weigh, and I just suggest you going through it. Especially in case I missed anything. But nuclear key cards and ore are definitely culprits in this section. Holotapes, I don't even think there's anything in here that you'd have to worry about. It all pretty much doesn't weigh anything. If you really want to save a couple of tenths of a pound, then yeah, go through them. But as you can see, none of it really weighs anything here. I just get rid of a lot of it into my stash box because that way you can still keep it in case you ever needed it for something. You never know, and it doesn't really weigh anything anyway. So holo, you don't really have to worry too much about. Notes. Now this one can definitely weigh you down. If you're a new player, make sure you're going into your Pip-Boy and going to notes. And make sure, because these plans will start to accumulate. And some sell better than others, But if you don't think they'll sell, then just drop them. Maybe drop them at a train station and give them to somebody that would possibly use them. And also make sure you're looking under P and you're looking under R for recipes and plans that you haven't learned. They will take up weight until you learn them, and then they're basically consumed, and then you don't have to worry about the weight from them at all. But plans can definitely start to weigh you down. If you don't know about them very well and you forget about them, and like you go 50 levels, like over a couple of weeks, you're probably going to have a bunch of plans that you don't know. And again, like I said, a little bit goes a long way. All this stuff that I'm talking about really adds up. It really does. Like, I think we were 950 in the stash box when we started, and we're already down to 846 from the stuff I've taken out. And my stash box is actually very taken care of. I don't know the word I'm looking for, but I keep tabs on it. I'm always making sure that there's nothing in here that I don't want. So just another little thing to keep an eye out for is the notes there. And they do sell for really good too, especially the treasure maps. The treasure maps don't weigh anything really. And I do recommend selling those as well. Anywhere from 200 to 300, I find they sell fairly quickly. And these are some of the plans that I'm selling and some of the prices if you want to copy them. Some of them might be out of date, don't judge me. But yeah, they do start to weigh. I wish I could see the total weight of my plans in here, because I bet you it is a good 10-20 pounds at least, and I don't even have a lot in here. So just keep an eye out on your notes as well. Definitely more of a person thing, like the miscellaneous folder that I was just talking about will weigh your person down rather than your actual stash box. Okay, now junk. This is probably the biggest culprit for your stash box, and of course, this is maybe why you're watching this video. So I'm going to go through this the best I can, especially for people that do not have Fallout First. I'm not even going to take Fallout First into account for this. We're going to go through on the best ways to manage junk. So the first thing I want to point out too, a lot of the junk that you pick up, or I should say, well, 99% of the junk you pick up is usually some form of aluminum, fiberglass, oil, acid, plastic, steel, lead. It usually has these components in it. And what you need to do is make sure you're scrapping this stuff. If you don't scrap it, it will weigh your stash box down. Like, you don't want an aluminum canister in your stash box. You want aluminum, fiberglass, and oil in your stash box. So make sure you go through your stash box and collect anything that is not a component. Like, we were at 840 there. Let's see what happens when I go through all of this stuff and then make it into its final form. So all of this stuff, and this was just for me running around for, you know, a couple of minutes. It really doesn't take long to accumulate. I'm also going to go through stuff that certain junk that might be more useful than others, so just bear with me. We'll get into that as well. So yeah, all the ballistic fiber was actually, but anyway, yeah, let's just grab all of this. So look at all the stuff there. We're already saving 100 pounds here. Of course, we're going to put some junk back in here, but we were at like 850. So we'll see what we go back into once we scrap all of this junk. Really make sure you're scrapping junk. There's a very rare case where scrapping the junk will actually weigh a little bit more, but that's fairly rare. And like I said, you're going to want the final component anyway. So we were at 850. Let's go scrap all this stuff. And you can do this simply by grabbing everything. If you're not sure, you can just grab everything in your junk box and then just come over. And you don't even have to go to the actual junk tab here. You can just scrap all your junk. And then there's stuff, like I said, like this is something that'll probably, like, it weighs 5 pounds if I scrap it. Okay, it does go down 5 pounds, but the floater stuff that you get actually weighs less if you don't scrap it, but that doesn't matter. I'm just getting off topic here. So we were at 850. Now let's store all this junk. Wow. So we had 120 pounds in our stash box that was not broken down into the final forms. These are the final forms that you want. Now look at the weights of these. We literally just saved 120 pounds just by going through our stash box and grabbing junk that was not breaking down yet. If your stash box is full, it's very likely that this can happen. So just keep that in mind. That's all you really have to worry about junk. I'm gonna go into junk right now and more like junk that you may want to keep. So let's do that. And I'm going to go to my stash box for this. Okay, so junk that you want to be keeping in your stash box is definitely aluminum. Of course, if you have as much as I do, like 481 pounds, you're probably not going to want to keep a lot of it. Aluminum, I would try to keep as much of it as you can, though, or that you're comfortable with. If not, maybe just sell it. And don't forget, you can bulk items as well, which I'm going to get into right after this. Ballistic fiber doesn't weigh too much and it's hard to find, so I would just pretty much keep everything that you can get for ballistic fiber. Black titanium scrap, like you really don't need more than a couple of hundred of all of these. I have so much because I have the stash box, and I do recommend, if you do play this game a lot, to get Fallout first. It is even just for 1 month, and then that way you can go on a junk spree collecting as much as you can, and then you can just have a bit of a collection, because when your Fallout First runs out, you can actually still take the junk out of your scrap box, you just can't put it back in. So anything that you've accumulated, you will get to keep, and that's why I recommend it. Bone shards, not exactly useful, to be honest. You don't need a lot of it. Ceramic, you don't need a lot of it. You just, if anything, you want to keep the most junk of stuff that's going to help you make ammo, like copper, steel, lead. These things you want to keep as much of as possible of it. Or if you're making grenades, maybe, like if you're making Nuka grenades, maybe you want to hang on to a lot of aluminum. This is pretty much you as a person to decide how much junk that you want to keep. And like I said, you really don't need more than like 1,000 of each of these, and or like even the rare ones like aluminum, or like one of the ones, well, aluminum is rare, but I mean like one that you'd be using more, because aluminum can be used for fixing guns and even armor, if I'm not mistaken, and copper could be used for making ammo. My point is that some junk is used a lot more than others, and you as a person need to figure out what type of junk you're using a lot of, and then just try to hang on to it as much as you're comfortable with. Concrete, you don't really need a lot of. Copper can be used for ammo, so you might want to hang on to a lot of that. Cork scrap, crystal shards, you don't really need a lot of these. Maybe keep like 100 of these in your, or not copper, but cork and crystal shards. You probably only need like 100 of these in your stash box. Excess adhesive is another one you might want to keep as much as you're comfortable with in your stash box. Same thing with fiber optics. Fiberglass spool, you probably won't be using it a lot. The same with glass shards, gold scrap. Lead scrap, you're going to want to keep as much of it as you can, because you're probably using it to make armor. Loose gears, screws, these are another two that you'll probably want to keep as much of it as you can. But then again, too, like I said, you really don't need more than 1,000 of these, even 500, and you'll be able to fix like, 100 weapons with that. And then as you're fixing them, you're going to accumulate more anyway. Springs, yeah, it's another one for fixing gun and armors. Plastic is another one, you might use that for bulking. You can actually bulk plastic, so you can bulk the bulk, which I find ironic. Nuclear waste, asbestos, cloth you can actually use to make gunpowder, so that's another one you might want to, have 1,000 of, 500 to 1,000. Nuclear waste, raw asbestos, like maybe a couple hundred. Same thing with fertilizer. Leather's another good one, especially earlier on for armor, so you might want to keep a couple hundred of that. Raw rubber, silver scrap. These are ones you're not going to want to keep too much of, more than likely. Again, like I said, a lot of these are just, for each person. If you do have to use some of this junk that I'm saying that is not useful, then that's just my opinion. Of course, if you do need to have a lot of raw asbestos, I don't know what for, then maybe keep like 1,000 of it, right? And you're probably going to want to bulk it. Flux is definitely one you'll want to keep as much as possible in your stash box. but it is very hard to accumulate flux, especially for new players, so I wouldn't worry about this one weighing your stash box down. If you have stable flux, then just throw it in your junk and I wouldn't worry about it. Steel scrap, it is used to make ammo, but it's so easy to get. I would recommend not keeping more than like a couple thousand in your stash box. You can literally go run West Tech a couple times and you'll have more than 1,000 steel. So you really don't even need to keep steel in your scrap box unless it's just maybe a couple hundred. And if you're making ammo, just go run West Tech for 10 or 20 minutes and you'll have a couple thousand steel and you'll probably be able to make all the ammo that you want. Ultracite scrap is another one for ammo. Refined gunpowder. Those are ones you're probably going to want to keep as much as possible. This was actually used for a power armor, so I'm not even going to get into that. Waste acid is like one of the rarest junk other than flux that you're going to want to hang on to, especially if you're making ballistic ammo, because acid can be used to break down lead ore from Lucky Hole Mine. If you want a guide for making ammo, I will link a video in the description that'll help you with that, and I have lots of other ammo videos that you may want to check out as well for that. But acid is an extremely useful piece of junk. Antiseptic is another one. You probably don't need a lot of it. Waste oil is maybe one that you could use for ammo. I use it for flamer fuel, so it's hard for me to hang on to it. And wood scraps. And that's another one. Like, unless you're building, you probably won't need a lot of it. And that's pretty much it, everybody. I'm sure a lot of this info that I gave you can help you with your stash box. Especially, like, if I had to recommend anything, it's more than likely Miscellaneous. That's weighing your person down or your stash box. Notes are definitely a culprit, and junk can definitely be a culprit too if you have not scrapped at all. And just to touch upon, mods won't really weigh you down. You're probably not hanging on to a lot of those. Again, if you're not using them, just get rid of them. But ammo is another one I wanted to talk about. Again, if you're not using it, then just get rid of it or even sell it. Ammo sells fairly quickly, but some ammos won't, like 38s and 44s probably won't sell too fast. But just keeping in mind, like, if you're not using, let's say, like, you know, a grenade launcher, like, that's £3 just for 15 of those. So maybe find a place, if you have a bunch of them and you're not using it, maybe sell them on Reddit, put them in your vendor, and if they're not going, then I would just drop them, to be honest. Like, it's not a huge deal. It really isn't. Like, I like to collect everything, but I've told myself time and time again, sometimes you just gotta let things go, and you'll just be a lot happier with the amount of room in your stash box. So let's get those out of here. Look at fusion cores. Fusion cores can really weigh down your stash box. So we went from like 730 there. Okay, so just 13 fusion cores is about 40 pounds. Yeah, it says stack weight 4 there, but that's because I have a perk card on. And that's my point, but you can see that went up 40 pounds. Let's see what happens when I keep these on me. So yeah, it's like barely even like 5 pounds. And that's because of this perk card right here. Batteries included. Energy weapon ammo weighs 90% less. Fusion cores are covered by this. Keep that in mind. So if you are a power armor user, you're better off to just keep as many fusion cores on you as possible. You can literally keep 100 on you and it won't weigh you down too bad. I used to carry 50 to 100 on me, and, you know, I was able to get my weight under, you know, 170 when I was at the low end, and I'd be just over 200 at the high end. So fusion cores, again, if you're a power armor user, make sure that you have batteries included on and you're carrying these on your person. Do not put fusion cores in your stash box. Not a good idea. Unless you're just using a power armor once in a while and you're going to keep 4 or 5 in there, then that's totally understandable. Missiles are another one I want to talk about. Like, just 10 missiles, 30 pounds. 30 pounds. So if you're not... Oh, yeah, it was 20 pounds. Sorry, but still. That's a lot. You know what I mean? If you're not using a rocket launcher, which most people aren't, get those out of your stash box. And even on your person, get rid of them. If you don't need them, get rid of them. let's just get rid of the missiles here. And I have, if I didn't have bandolier on, it would really make a difference. So I'm 351 pounds. Just from getting rid of my missiles, I'm down 20 pounds. So if your person, your actual character is overweight, it might have to do with, you know, grenade rounds, missiles. Fat mans are another one that weigh a lot. Make sure you're checking your ammo and getting rid of stuff that you do not need. Ammo can definitely be a culprit of your stash box and of your actual person. Just make sure you're getting rid of what you're not using. And even 5mm, like, they don't weigh a lot, but you start to accumulate a lot of them, it starts to add up. A little bit goes a long way, everybody, trust me. You really just got to keep on this. And yeah, it's very tedious, I know, but every little bit will really help you. Now let's get into bulking. Okay, so I just want to say that I was wrong about bulking. It doesn't really make a difference, and when you are bulking, it may seem like it is making a difference because you're just really lowering your plastic. So what it's doing is you're taking lead or whatever out of your stash box, you're bulking it, and then the plastic that you're using to bulk it is actually lowering your weight. You shouldn't be bulking stuff unless you're just selling it to a vendor. It really doesn't make a difference. I heard for aluminum it can, but that's about it. Bulking really doesn't make a huge difference. So I just wanted to point that out. I thought it did, but with further research, bulking is really not worth it, and it's just going to waste your molded plastic. Again, if you want to bulk stuff, then you can sell that junk to a vendor. You can only sell junk to vendors if it is in bulk. So that's pretty much it, everybody. I hope this helped you with your stash box. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. And of course, I will get back to you as soon as I can, or somebody else will. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.